Hello and welcome to episode 10. Yes, we've made it to double motherfucking figures of.
I don't. Do you get something at double figures? Like I don't know what 10th anniversary is or anything like that, but yeah, I don't know.
Cake.
It feels like a nice achievement.
I don't
You've
like
put up
cake.
with me. You've put up with me for 10 episodes.
I know.
10.
10 of them.
10 of them.
Or you could say you put up with me
No,
for 10
no,
episodes.
definitely not. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure.
So this is Seddon and Laceys Comic Stash, as I said, episode 10. And this time, as said in the last episode, this is we reading each other's top five, something from each other's top fives. Last week was me on Walking Dead. This week it is Seddon reading Deadpool Kills.
Oh,
So that obviously was in my top five. It was my number five, if I remember correctly. Obviously, I waxed lyrical about it at the time. Seddon, what are you thinking about it, my boy?
well, I am a Marvel boy. I think we've talked about this on the show enough now, but yeah. And you know, coming off the back of the last episode, I do branch out in later years to image and more indie stuff, and I think I broadened my horizon. But the origin and the probably forever love will always be with Marvel. So when someone says here is someone, in this case Deadpool, killing the Marvel universe, I tiptoe into it initially, going, I don't want the Marvel universe to be killed. However, I want to see the Marvel universe be killed. So this is written by Cullen Bunn, who I don't think I'd actually read any, or certainly don't remember reading any superhero stuff. I've read a couple of creator-owned bits and very much liked it. In fact, oh God, here we go, memory boy. Should have researched this beforehand. But there was one particular one where it was a Western, and I don't really like Western movies. I watched some of them when I was a kid because my dad really liked them, but not something that resonates with me. But did an amazing kind of run on a Western comic. So was quite indoctrinated into the writer. So that was a plus point going in, and I am not even going to attempt the artist name because, in fact, for the camera, so that people at home, it's the second name. You can all attempt that name, and mainly because I don't really like. Yeah, that sounds good to me. I don't like butchering people's names, and again, I've never heard it said out loud by the person, so I'm going to go with no. So much like The Walking Dead, I guess let's start with the art. Now, there were some bits in this that I really liked. There were some choices in scenes that they do that I really like. So quite early on, and this is about Deadpool killing most of the heroes that you know and love, and also doesn't just stop there. Does like to kill the odd villain here and there, but focuses mainly on the main heroes. But when the story starts, and for anyone who's recently watched What If, and that might be your only experience with some of the Marvel stuff, we do start off with the Watcher kind of framing the story and introducing us at somewhere near the end of the story, and you see a very tortured Fantastic Four, a characters that I really really like, and there's some great little bits where Reed Richards, who is Mr. Fantastic, who is Elastic, where his body is just giving up on him, and he kind of turns into this sort of dishevelled, wrinkled mess in front of his wife's eyes. Which I'm saying that with glee. I all of a sudden feel very dark for saying that with glee, but it's a visual that I'd kind of never seen before. And throughout this, because it is Deadpool killing the Marvel universe, I guess a lot of the art leans into how the deaths happen. Like that kind of some spectacular gore, some that are just plays on stuff that we have or haven't seen before. And I guess that's the standout moments for the art for me. I will say, and I'm tiptoeing into this, I thought the art was okay.
There are some bits that could be better.
Yeah.
But I said it for what it's doing. I think the art works for it, and
certainly
some of the gorier end of stuff, I think does look cool.
I mean, to borrow something probably from like work reviews or school reviews that people have ever had, it felt solid but unspectacular for me for a lot of it. But didn't detract from it. It wasn't like I mean, I have in my time with the amount I've read, there are some comics where I've opened them and gone, oh my god, like I could draw better than this, and I can barely draw a stick man. You know, we're not talking about that. I just think it was kind of, it was just there rather than being great. And also, as I say, it felt like a lot of it was like, oh shit, I've got this scene to draw in a minute where it's going to be a big death. So I will focus more on that panel and maybe go light on some of the others because I'm probably to a schedule. But yeah, so as I say, the art was fine for me. It didn't knock me away, but it did allow for, as I say, some creative elements like that. And funny enough, so this is like one long story, but it was 4 issues. So, you know, it's split down into almost 4 chapters. And when we're introducing this first chapter, we start somewhat, as we're told, towards the end, and then it cuts to the beginning. So you kind of see the origins of why Deadpool is killing the Marvel universe. And most of this is in the first chapter, first issue. And I must admit, I really enjoyed the first issue. You get to see a captured Deadpool, and he's, you know, generically probably captured after a fight, like you see in so many comic books, and he's taken to the Ravenscroft mental institution, where a nefarious plan by the Psycho Man, who I really liked being in it because he's a Fantastic Four villain and one that doesn't get a lot of play, but is in a really great Fantastic Four run, trying to use his powers to take control of Deadpool, the unkillable Deadpool, to use for his own means. And it doesn't go well for him, does it?
No.
I mean, really, probably, if he'd have thought about it, he probably should have realised it was never going to go well, but goes very badly for him very quickly. But that first issue felt like it had a kind of a lot of nostalgia ticks for me. You know, there was lots of characters that probably are not the biggest ones from the Pantheon, other than the Fantastic Four. And I think there was a lot of moments where I just went, oh yeah, that's good. But you see Deadpool and his inner voices. And the Deadpool inner voices are, as they do in Deadpool comics, talking to him, some leading him down a dark path, some trying to lead him down a good path, and even the ones leading him down a good path are trying to lead him down a good dark path. But yeah, during this part, you kind of get this new voice in his head, and it congresses to a degree all the other voices into one. So he's now only hearing one voice, and he seems to get a purpose. And this is the purpose that drives him, and I think drives the series, because and I will come back in a minute to how I kind of felt about the purpose. But over the course of the next, the rest of the story, but the next 3 issues, it starts to kind of mete out why he's doing what he's doing, whilst showing many people die on the way there. So issue 2 is mainly a jump into him killing the Avengers. Primarily, that's what he's there to do. So you get to see, for audiences now, what is probably the most recognisable Marvel characters there are. You get to see them get their comeuppance. This was the part of the story that I struggled with the most. Strange enough, I thought this was, for a large part, the weakest part of the story, because he takes out the Avengers really easily. And I'll come back to some of them in a minute, but I just felt like for what they were trying to do, that he just like nicks some pin particles and then miniaturizes a load of bombs and then maximizes a load of bombs and explodes them. And admittedly, that doesn't kill all of them, but it just felt like, for some of the creativity that they're going to try and inject into how some of the other people die, it just felt like a bit like, we can't be bothered to deal with these, blow them up, and let's get on with the next bit. And I think one of the reasons why it stood out is, within about a page or 2 from that, you get like this really good bit where Thor is still alive. Thor cannot be blown up by mere bombs. And Deadpool even kind of goes, I knew you'd be one of the tricky ones. I thought this through. And Thor is slightly less dumb and arrogant in the comics than he is portrayed in the movies, but still is kind of dumb and arrogant. Throws Mjolnir at him, and he does this amazing bit where he uses the last of the pin particles to make it bloody massive. So when it flies back at Thor, it crushes Thor. And I just thought, do you know what? I've never seen that before. I've never seen someone do that before, and it was quite interesting from that respect. I just went, oh, you know, they've really thought about that as a death, and as I say, just a shame because just a couple of pages earlier, they wrote off so many so quick. But you know, you've only got so much time in a comic, I guess. So
Yeah.
so you know, go with your strongest bits. But yeah, I particularly like that. But people do start to kind of talk to him and say, like, why are you doing this? And you start to see some news reports going in the background. A very big sort of comic book framing element for stories that of the roving reporter who's telling you what happened. And again, really nice because it's Trish Trilby, who is a character from many moons ago, was the Beast's girlfriend, and I even refer to that in this. But from certain runs of comic books that I have read in my time, a bit part player, but one that I really like. So lovely to see it again. And I think there's a bit of a, whilst murdering everyone, there's a bit of a love letter from Cullen Bunn here to go, there are parts of this universe I really like. But I mean, I guess they're still not hammering home exactly why Deadpool is doing this. We move into the third main part of the story, and Deadpool then takes on the X-Men. And yes, I say there's a lot of ancillary deaths around that, but that's the kind of the bulk threat for him to take out in this one. And it's quite interesting because that's the or the part of the universe that he was created in. He was created in X-Force, so I guess it's the one that he has the most connectivity to. And for me, like the seeing time as it is now was quite interesting. That when I grew up, the X-Men were Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvel were the X-Men. But as I say, I think despite some successful movies, the X-Men are not Marvel anymore for most people. They are the Avengers. So I thought it was quite nice that when he wrote it, the X-Men got a higher billing in the kill part than the Avengers did. So I guess give that nod to go, yes, you know, like we do recognise the X-Men are there. Again, though, this one had a couple of be careful where I go. This a couple of weak kills. I found like kind of. It almost felt like a bit of the creativity of the deaths had gone out the window, where you know they just. I want to say it was like a fishbowl. It's bollocks. It's not a fishbowl, but you know they put something over Cyclops' head.
Yeah.
And like he takes out loads of people by using his optic blast within and it exploding into them. And I don't know what this says to me about me as a human being, but I wanted to see some of those characters get a lot more individual deaths. You know, I wanted to see the smart way that they were going to be killed. But I say that again within a few panels, you see that he has. Well, this one was a bit gross, but that he has got X-23 and Daken. And for those that are not big comic book fans, Daken is Wolverine's son in the comic books and shares a healing factor. And X-23 is a clone of, effectively a clone, but a female young clone of Wolverine who has the same healing factor. And knowing, as Deadpool does, because he's got his own healing factor, that they're just going to heal, he gets them strapped to a contraption that as they breathe their breath again, as they're healing, they just get blasted with flames to absolutely scar them and destroy them again. And they are now stuck in this eternal cycle, I guess, of perpetually being dead, but reviving every now and again, only to get brutally torched to death again. Which, you know, like again, creative. I thought, I've not thought of that, and also like you know, our love for Batman, the TV show. It felt almost like that very, very wicked version of here is our death contraption, but this time it really is a death contraption
and it works.
That causes great pain and suffering. But we are seeing a bit more as we go through this of the voice in Deadpool's head, and certainly by this point, I think for a lot of readers, you know, they'd have kind of twigged where and what this is heading towards. But another really interesting bit for me in this issue is you see the and again I'm dubious that these people be in a room, but I could see what they're going for. But you see like Aunt May and MJ and Rick Jones from the Hulk's mate, kind of all having almost a grief-stricken coffee morning, where they've all lost people to Deadpool, and sweet Aunt May says, well, we need to pool our money together and hire the greatest assassin to take him out. And there was something highly amusing about the idea of Aunt May going, yeah, we're going to fuck this guy up. And they hired a taskmaster. And recently seen, for those that are movie watchers rather than comic readers, in the Black Widow movie, but a very, very different taskmaster than what you would have seen in the Black Widow movie. But the taskmaster is tasked with hunting Deadpool down. So you start to see him kind of following Deadpool around. But as we kind of motor into the final issue and the end point, I mean, Deadpool's taken out pretty much all of the big guns of the Marvel universe, or all of the human big guns on planet Earth. And he kind of then just starts fucking up the non sort of Marvel, the non-Earth based ones. So you see that he takes out Doctor Strange and uses those powers to, one, find something called the Nexus of all realities, and also to help him to be able to take out people such as Thanos. And he also uses, again, another more obscure Fantastic Four villain, the Puppet Master, to get him to make puppets of some of the more powerful beings in the universe, so that he can just fuck them up puppet wise. So he pretty much has won, and he's taken out everything. And this is the bit where I guess they really hammer home is the voice inside Deadpool's head, the voice that's been sort of driving him on. And his whole reason for doing this is, goes back to what we've seen with Deadpool. I want to say from day one, but probably from kind of the end of the first year or two of his publication and onwards, is he's always a character that breaks the fourth wall. He talks to you as the audience. But what this voice is effectively the pure realization that he and everyone that he's killed are comic book characters. Yeah. That actually, like, he has everything that happens to them, all the bad stuff that happens to them, and not the bad stuff that happens in this necessarily, but all the bad stuff that has ever happened to them is actually from the imagination of a creator, but more so and probably more damning. And the pointy lens back at us is what we wanted to see happen to those characters, the characters that we claim we love. The Fantastic Four, the first family, but you're only happy when really bad things are happening to them. It throws that lens back on us of going, why do we enjoy the misery, the suffering, the deaths, the resurrections, the loves, the lost loves, and things like that? And because Deadpool has realised this, and because his voice has realised this, that's why he's killing everyone. And it's almost a mercy killing at that point, isn't it? He's kind of going, to end all of your suffering, I am going to kill you all. And that's why he's only really killing those, because he's leaving the norms, let's say, the ordinary people behind, because they don't get killed and resurrected in comic books. They are more normally ancillary characters. And actually, if you take away the more fantastical people, then they could probably go on and lead a normal life. He goes to the Nexus of all realities, and it leads to, fuck it, I guess we spoil it. The end page, which is him turning up in the office of Cullen Bunn, who's writing it, and with the, for me, unpronounceable artist drawing it, where they're talking about how the comic book will end, and they are describing exactly what the panels of this is. And then you get like kind of the final bit of Deadpool saying to us, breaking the fourth wall as he does, the audience, to say pretty much like, I'm coming for you lot next.
Yeah.
And I do think it's I don't know, I've done a lot of descriptor there, and I know it's something that you picked for your top 5, but I guess before I go into anything more on it, I'm kind of interested to maybe touch back on it now that I've experienced it and read it. Is what was it the overall story that I think really, really got you, or was it like the constituent parts that got you to the end point?
See, what I love about this is the overall. I just love the fact that someone took the balls to go, right, let's just massacre everyone and go nuts. And the fact of, as you say, some of the deaths are just awesome.
I will try and find some panels of the deaths and try and splicey some of them in as we go through the show, so you can see some of them.
And it's that I just love that, and then obviously the end bit. The end is very much that sort of the same with Killing Joke of go on then, sick fuck. What are we doing?
Yeah, yeah.
Which I enjoy that because it's more than just here is our story, here is our begin, middle, and end. It's very much that thing of no, you want to see people in pain. That sort of makes you start questioning
why.
why
Why do I want to see them die, come back? Why do I want to see bad things happen to these characters that I'm supposed to love?
Yeah. And so that's why I really really like this. So what was your overall on it then as a whole?
It's odd because I really like the idea, and I really like that. We've said about stuff on here, but stuff on the other products we put out. I am quite a fan of creating something that makes me look at myself and go either what would I do, or why am I like this, or why do I do this? And I think generally in Deadpool, he's not something where you see that because he is we've talked about him as a character. He's almost a cheat code in comics, isn't he? Because he's funny, he's murderous, he can be heroic, he can do all of these things, and I could never see myself in him because no one can be him. So I think to use him as a character, as a vehicle to make me ask questions about myself, and again, it's a really interesting question. Why do I drive pleasure out of the suffering? And I guess the argument, if you're going to be sort of totally honest about it, is I probably don't actually get pleasure out of the suffering. I probably get the pleasure out of how they recover from that and seeing them do something. But yeah, a really grand idea. The one thing I will say is it, for as good as the idea is, it missed something for me, and I can't. It's not long. It really isn't. It's 4 issues. It comes in at just under 100 pages, and I think I'd actually have liked it to have been a bit longer, and I think I'd have liked them to maybe. Here we go. I'm going to sound terrible again. I think I'd have liked to have seen a bit more focus on like him taking the people out, and there's some great deaths in it, but I think in a universe, as they say, where there are so many, I think they actually could have taken maybe one more issue and let that breathe a little bit more. And and funny enough, as good as I think the idea is, I think they telegraph it a bit too much. I think because I think at points when I was reading it, I almost felt like that inner voice was supposed to be more of a mystery than it felt like to me. So very early on in, let's say, issue 2, I was like, okay, this is where they're going. And that didn't make it bad. Like sometimes seeing where you're going is what the storyteller's trying to do, but it felt like it was trying to maybe have that a little bit more mysterious. Yeah, and because it come across as too obvious, yes, I think it lost a bit for me. But for me, great idea. I would kind of stick it in the. And I said earlier about the art, and you can't have everything to have the absolute best banging art in the world, but I think combining middle part of that story. So I said like issue 2 and 3 I struggle a bit, whereas issue 1 and issue 4 I really liked. But I think to make the story work, and again to call it Deadpool kills the Marvel Universe, you have to see him kill a lot of the Marvel Universe. So I wouldn't have wanted that to be a 1 or 2 issue. But I feel like actually, for me, it might have worked better if it had been 5 or 6, and maybe it had taken a bit more time. As I say, like to maybe remove the feeling of it being a bit too obvious of where they were going with it. I think that would have been lessened and not made it any more mysterious. But actually, if it had pulled me a bit more into him rampaging through the universe, at points that felt a bit rushed to me. And as I say, there was some sort of deaths where you just go, that come too easy to him, and actually you've shown that you can do some really smart stuff. Like, and I'll go back to it, the Thor expanding hammer. Now, don't get me wrong, there was a bit of me, the comic book arsehole in me, went, well, it doesn't matter if his hammer's big, he would have been fine. But I just go, no, actually, shut the fuck up. That was really good idea and really creative, and no one's done it before. It is good, but I think I'd have liked a bit more of that for other characters in it and their deaths. And they hit up the biggies. They do a load of the Avengers. They do the X-Men. They do the Fantastic Four. We see Spidey go. And going back to what I was saying about being Marvel boy, I think there was probably a lot of Marvel characters that I'd have liked to have seen Deadpool kill that I didn't get to see. So, but yeah, I mean, for me, it was, I don't know on a ranking scale, but I would kind of go somewhere in the fine to good. And I wonder whether if Cullen Bunn comes back 5 years later and had done that 5 years later, whether it might have been even better for me, possibly conceptually, if it had been done. We talk about DC, if an equivalency of this had been done in DC with another character, maybe. One thing that I meant to mention, which was a bit of a shame for me and something that probably dragged it down a little bit, is I didn't find Deadpool as funny as I normally find him in this. Now, the tone of the stories is partially quite different because that voice in his head has changed. And I think you're almost going, he is a Deadpool with a purpose and he knows why he's doing this. So would he be so funny and punny as he usually is? But I did kind of miss that. I do like funny Deadpool. So that was a bit of a miss for me.
Yeah, it does lack as many of the one-liners as you would normally get, and the token silly, just random silliness that you get.
Well, I said about creative deaths. I think like quite often what you'll see him in the comic books is that he's quite humorous with the choices of death sometimes, and it feels almost like an unfair criticism because they were trying to do something different with him. They clearly state he has changed from the Deadpool. He's never gone on a murderous rampage like this before, but I just kind of missed it, and I think it doesn't necessarily feel Deadpool enough with me without without more wisecracking in it than potentially we got.
Yeah. So, would you say people should have a read?
I was thinking about this earlier, and before we jump onto that, did you know there was a sequel to this?
No.
So, funny enough, when I was looking it up earlier, and I haven't read it, and I haven't even looked at the creative team yet, so it's probably something for us to take offline and potentially come back to. But I believe there is a follow-up to this called Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe Again. But I don't know much more than that yet, so it's something we can look up kind of afterwards and probably consider. So would I recommend this? Yes, I would. But what I would recommend is, if you are a Deadpool fan, go for it. I would say that if you've maybe just seen the movies and you've never experienced him in the comic books, I probably wouldn't start here.
No.
I think he needs a lot more. I think the movies do a great job of outlining who Deadpool is and what he does, but I think there's a shit ton of Deadpool. But I think at least sort of dipping in and maybe trying 2 or 3 of the normal Deadpools that there are out there before maybe you kick into this, because I do wonder whether this might not hit so hard if you haven't had a lot of experience with Madcap, like Assassin, Secret Agent, all of the many roles that he's played in that universe. But I do think it's a good read. I think it's worth reading. But I would beef up on your Deadpool first, and it's not because you need to know a lot of his history. I just think that you might. It might be too jarring for someone who's just seen the movie, and actually it might lose a bit of its impact if you don't realise that, because you might just come into this and go, is this what he's like in the comics then? Whereas I think if you've read sort of, again, let's say 5 stories of Deadpool outside of this, you'll go, oh no, he is very much the movie Deadpool. I think you need that grounding before you jump into this.
I would say if you were looking at a start point for Deadpool, I would recommend they do. I think it's called the Ultimate Collection, or the
Oh.
Platinum Collection. It probably about 15, 20 quid to get, but it has a plethora of story arcs in there, and you do see a lot of the fun stuff. There's one where, as part of that, he can control Mjolnir and becomes for Deadpool, and you see a lot more of the silly, fun Deadpool, which that's more like he is from the films.
Yeah, I'm just having a little look now. It's actually shame it's not in stock. Oh no, it is. It wasn't in stock on Amazon, but actually, I think it's because they've released another version of it, which is Deadpool Reloaded. But I think it's the same one. I think it's just a reprint of it. And yeah, certainly looking at some of the creators' names that are listed on here, they are some of the creators that really shaped Deadpool into the juggernaut character that he is at the moment, especially on there. And as I say, there are thousands of Deadpool stories, and I wouldn't say necessarily all of them are essential reads, but right back at the beginning, he was introduced, and he was a bit of a one-note character. But in a time where it wasn't so fashionable to give the bad guys a solo series, they gave Deadpool a solo series, and a writer called Joe Kelly kind of took it on, and he's really funny, but he really fleshes out and shapes out the Deadpool we see now. And then post that, you get a lot of very good writers over the decades to follow who take a lot of those concepts and build it up. So yeah, I'm with you. I think picking up something like that where you can dip into his history and just see what the character is, and yeah, I think it's 14 quid at the moment. So but yeah. Yeah, maybe have a punt at something like that. And of course, as I say, if you are a big comic book fan and you've read a lot of Deadpool, then yeah, give this a go. Like, because I think it is a natural follow on, or I say natural follow on. It is a very interesting way of going. And I hate to use the term, but they have it. They have the Watcher in there, but it's almost what if Deadpool realised that the fourth wall had loads of people on the other side of it, and they were the people that were causing the pain and suffering in the universe that he's in. And I think it's against what we saw in a TV show of What If. I think it's a really interesting kind of what if to explore, and the sort of stuff that I wish the TV show had done.
Said it's not going to happen. It's not ever going to be good.
Well, I ain't coming back for season 2. It'll be the first Marvel thing that I don't watch, and explicitly don't watch. I'm not coming back. It's bollocks. Well, actually, I'm going to clarify that. I'm only coming back if they get a whole new creative team, which they're not going to do because people watch the first one because it's on Disney, and we're told to watch shit on Disney, so we watch shit on Disney.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as always, like, subscribe if you're listening in audio form. Rate and subscribe on your podcast players of choice. If you're on the YouTube, ring the bell. Ring the bell. That side, I think. Bell.
I think I think you're spot on. I think you've got the right side. And I was going to sing "Ring My Bell," but I find myself often tempted to sing stuff. But yet, so far, I'm not confident enough to put my voice out on YouTube because it's fucking terrible.
So, as always, there are bountifuls of joys on the channel. Pop videos, gaming videos, and the granddaddy of them all, the main Friday podcast, where anything and everything is fair game, including random stories of birds, sometimes foxes.
Oh, yeah, but no, we don't talk about the fox. I was going to say, while we do like our wrap up bit like this, please come along and join us on the Facebook group. We love and we want to get comments and things like that on our reviews, but also we do have for everything we do, we have a Facebook group for it, and I think it can be a very kind of handy way for you to speak directly to us and us to speak directly to you, because I know it's something that we're both particularly interested in. There's a lot of comic books for us to read. There's a lot of things we love. There's a lot of topics we want to get to. But also, I guess one of my aspirational goals is I'd love to at least get to the point where we start to do some episodes based off of things that people who are watching or listening to this have recommended to us.
Yeah.
And, like the comments are great. Please drop them. But things like the Facebook group allows us, as I say, to talk directly. And it is always nice to to talk to anyone who's listening to it. So please do.
Yes, and obviously also it makes more for long form conversations
Yeah.
than just
Yeah.
this is what I think.
Yeah.
So as ever, we will be back next week with episode 11. What that will be about is a mystery because we haven't decided yet.
Yeah. I was thinking, do we float it out there as it's a mystery? We're not telling you; it'll be a surprise. But no, yeah. The truth is we haven't discussed what we do behind the scenes stuff. We do have a list of episode ideas that we're going to go through, but yeah, we haven't picked out which one our next episode is going to be.
Exactly. We fly by the seat of our pants around here.
Oh fuck yeah! Oh yeah!
So until next time, that's Seddon. That's Seddon.
I like the fact that you are pointing off screen. Yeah. The person. We'll get the hang of that one day. We'll get the hang of that one
at some point I'll get used to it. That said, I'm Lacey, and this has been Comic Book Stash, and we will be back next week with more. Goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks for watching, and just remember, you can join the Cult of Egg by liking and subscribing to this YouTube channel. We release regular content where we talk about all things geek, all things pop culture, and all things that we're interested in. You can also come along and join the discussion on Facebook groups and Renaissance Cast. And you can join us on our Twitch channel where Stu regularly streams games. And if you'd like to support us, then please follow the link for the Patreon. Thanks very much.